It's Christmas, 1993. My big brother Phil is deep into Lunar the Silver Star on Sega CD. As the tag-along brother, I loved nothing more than to watch any game he was into, as I wasn't confident enough to play anything bigger than a simple platformer. He would even go as far as recording his play sessions on VHS for me to watch later. This is how I experienced Final Fantasy VII initially. Lunar always felt different though. A magical mix of classic sprite-based art with these eye-catching anime cutscenes thanks to the CD-ROM technology. It wouldn't be for a few more years that I took the plunge into bigger games such as these, but the core memories are the foundation of my love of games. Enter Lunar Remastered Collection, a long-awaited celebration of the series. The Lunar name has been around the block in various iterations since its initial release on Sega CD, like in the subsequent ports and re-releases on Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1, PlayStation Portable, and mobile. Yet there hasn't been a good way to play the series outside of the PlayStation Classic version on PSN, which spins up an emulated version. Now we finally have an accessible, updated version with touched-up pixel art and cleaned-up animation sequences. The real question that drove me to this review was, does Lunar the Silver Star and its sequel, Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, hold up to today's retro-styled RPG standards? In the process of answering this question, I found a pleasant, nostalgic surprise that shows how far ahead of its time Lunar really was. Lunar the Silver Star and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue are pretty boilerplate turn-based RPGs. They involve a hero's unexpected journey to stop a world-threatening evil, all while amassing a lovable ragtag group of allies. These kinds of games live and die by the level of personality they display, but luckily that's where the series stands out most. Outlandish Kyle and boisterous Nash from the first game are as charismatic as Lamina and Jean of the second game. These characters all play well with our protagonists Alex and Hero, who are the pure of heart, hopeful heroes of lore archetype in their respective games. Everyone in the main and supporting cast makes for engrossing personalities. Fortunately, the villains are equally as magnetic. Throughout the course of their fairly linear stories, you really get to know a cavalcade of extra dastardly villains, led by the best-in-class Galleon. Adding to the mix is a wild localization from a team that originally chose to include 90s American pop culture references, such as Austin Powers jokes, into a Japanese game. It's a community fan favorite. I mentioned the game being fairly linear, but that's to its benefit. The linearity is used to really hammer down an engaging story that keeps you moving forward at a pretty steady pace. While other games prefer an open-world approach, there's a charm to a curated, straightforward experience. This has come more into vogue with games like Sea of Stars and Jack Move, but it's easy to see how these more recent games were influenced by classics like Lunar or Chrono Trigger. The stories of the world ruled by the ancient goddess Athena, suddenly in peril from the ancient evil Zophar, can get some pretty dark places, but remain hopeful throughout. Considering the games follow a fabled hero dragon master attempting to slay the 4 dragons and save the people of Lunar, you can see how the stories build into each other, despite taking place hundreds of years apart. What also helps is the constant stream of animated cutscenes that take place during the major story beats to really punctuate the proceedings and flex that CD-ROM power. The familiar turn-based combat has some slight positioning mechanics built in. There is an invisible grid system that has characters only able to move a certain distance before they can attack. In addition, some attacks will do area of effect damage, so spacing is important. Outside of that, the remastered version allows for automatic commands to be set for your party, so you can program how the party acts automatically. This takes a bit of repetitive nature out of combat. There's also a fast forward button to speed up the flow if you feel it's a slog. Enemies appear on screen and can be avoided, but if touched, will take you into the combat screen. Unlike other remastered collections like the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, there isn't any other way to avoid the monotony of enemy engagement. The number of fights isn't tedious, but it's right on the cusp of being so. A slider lowering or raising the number of enemy encounters would have been welcome, perhaps an increased XP or money slider too. These are the quality of life improvements I would have wanted from this kind of remaster, especially since my replay reminded me of the grinding necessary to progress past some of the story bosses. It isn't egregious, but the more I avoided combat, the harder the story became. Along those lines, while everything looks crisp and beautifully brought into high definition, it's unfortunate that the original English voice acting isn't an option. We're stuck with the new voice acting presented here. How about some behind-the-scenes content, or a toggle to swap between the original versus remastered versions? Currently, the Remastered Collection offers the choice of playing the original games or the new remastered versions, but they're separate executables. Luckily, the save carries over from one version to the next, but you still have to exit the game entirely to switch. This lack of content may have to do with the breakdown of communication between the original localization team working designs, but I would have even loved to see the collection expanded with the other versions of the games and offshoots, like Silver Star Harmony, Silver Star Complete, Lunar Legend, all the Lunar Hyper applications, Lunar Semposuru Gaiken, and Lunar Dragon Song, just to make this the definitive compilation. All that said, here we are with the PS1 Sega Saturn versions of Lunar 1 and 2, and that will have to be enough for now. We've definitely seen more robust collections and compilations of revered games from the past, and it's a bit unfortunate that Lunar hasn't been afforded the same treatment. As a longtime fan of the Lunar series, I'm more than overjoyed to finally have one of my childhood JRPGs in a playable format on modern consoles. In 2025, I still find the series relevant and as charming as it was back when I was a starry-eyed child. I saw myself in Alex and Hero. They were the heroes I wanted to be. Still, this is far from being a definitive collection. There's so much more that could accompany a package like this, in addition to combat speed, a cleaner look, and widescreen presentation. Original English VO, missing games, artwork, orchestrated soundtrack, or even a quality of life gameplay improvements could have pushed this to a high standard that companies like Square Enix and Capcom have set. I'm happy that Lunar can now reach more people, but I long for more to share from such a cult classic and one of my all-time favorites.
This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.